There does seem to be a feeling right now that the genie is out of the bottle. Do you agree with Michael Allen that there's still a diplomatic solution potentially to turn this back?
First, thanks for having me on. Second, our sympathy and condolences go out to the many innocent Lebanese and Israelis who, of course, suffer from this escalation. But let's be clear, it isn't a question of avoiding a war or not. We've been in an acute war since the 7th of October, 2023, between Israel, supported by the United States and at times other countries, and an Iranian-led alliance. What we have now between Hezbollah and Israel is one campaign in this conflict, just like Gaza is another. The Houthi Red Sea operation is a third. So we have to look at it from that perspective. That means that it's not just important to stop the shooting, although that is usually what we want to do. It's also important that Israel and its friends and the United States emerge stronger and Iran and its proxies emerge weaker. They're going to do this again. We understand this with Putin in Ukraine after a decade more of him marching step by step. We still don't seem to quite get it with Iran and its proxies.
Well, so, sir, as you described this as an acute war already underway and this just being a campaign within it, what will bring it to its end? It sounds like what you're saying is that if it has to be Iran and its proxies being essentially totally backing off, is that an end that has to be achieved militarily, or is there a role for diplomacy here, specifically when it comes to a ceasefire in Gaza that Hezbollah says will make them stop firing rockets into Israel?
Well, a ceasefire in Gaza is desirable, but the administration has stressed in the last few weeks that the main problem at the moment is Hamas. And of course, Hamas wants to see a larger war between Israel and Hezbollah. But the point is, I'm sorry, Hezbollah's position that it can fire thousands of rockets into Israel to support another group in Gaza that is conducting or has started conducting a terrorist campaign against Israel is not sufficient justification for me to shrug this off and say, gee, Israel, why don't you just stop killing people in Gaza and Hezbollah will stop trying to kill Israelis. This is a longer-term problem that has been on the our desks for the last 20 years in Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and elsewhere, Lebanon, and has now grown acute in the last year. What we need is Hezbollah to stop shooting and pull back. If it doesn't do so, Israel, under international law, has the right, and under the current situation, probably the necessity to escalate.
So as you make note, Ambassador, this issue has occupied a good chunk of your career in foreign policy. With your experience, then, what would be your advice to the administration on where to draw the line on U.S. military involvement? And I'm not running straight to boots on the ground, but if there is, in fact, a concerted attack against Israel that involves ballistic missiles, for instance, it's going to be U.S. airmen and sailors who have to help repel that attack, right? Where should we draw the line?
Well, first of all, we will. I think President Biden has made that clear. Secretary of Defense Austin has moved more assets into the area. You'll remember back in April, we were critical in deterring and defending against a major hundreds and hundreds of Iranian and other missiles and rockets. We'll do that again.
Yes.
At the same time, the administration will be trying to broker a ceasefire and a Hezbollah pullback. But the point is, Hezbollah has to stop firing rockets into Israel. They have basically depopulated about 20 or 30 kilometers of Israeli territory south of the Lebanese border. Israel is a small country. It can't afford to give up bits and pieces of its country permanently.
Ambassador, as you allude to members of the administration here, including the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, I would point out that today, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Michael McCaul, moved to find the secretary in contempt of Congress for not showing up to testify in a hearing today about the Afghanistan withdrawal. This is what Chairman McCaul had to say, and we'll have you respond.
Because Secretary Blinken has chosen not to appear and to willfully defy the subpoena under Article 1 of the Constitution, I hereby adjourn this hearing and intend to proceed with a markup to begin the formal process of holding the Secretary in contempt of Congress.
It is worth pointing out, Mr. Ambassador, that Secretary of State Blinken is currently at the United Nations General Assembly, and in his letter to McCall said the events of this week were scheduled months ago, have been publicly noticed. He went on to say, I believe you would agree U.S. representation at the highest levels in these engagements is essential, reiterating an offer to send a deputy secretary to the hearing instead, and says he will make himself available to testify after he returns from travel. Sir, is it helpful to hold a cabinet secretary like this, especially with the kinds of conflicts that are currently happening in the world, in contempt of Congress for being at a body that could endeavor to help come to a resolution in some of these conflicts?
Certainly, it's not helpful to demand that Blinken be in Washington today. It's not, I have to be careful here, it's not unreasonable to expect Blinken to appear before that committee, which has responsibility over the actions of Blinken's Department of State, to explain the extraordinary developments in Kabul in the summer of 2021 that led to the loss of 13 American servicemen and the tragic loss of hundreds of Afghans and, of course, thousands of people who were trying to get out who didn't get out. This is a disaster, and the Department of State, by its own internal inspector general and other reports, bears responsibility. Tony Blinken has yet to give a full disclosure of what he did or what he didn't do in those days and weeks in 2021. That's reasonable. Now, there's also politics here. There's an election. We all know that. But once again, this is a major foreign policy disaster, and I think that's generally understood in the United States and elsewhere. It's not unreasonable to expect sooner or later, at a time convenient to him, that Blinken appear and talk.